can't vote for someone who has scandals. Example, like, let me take an example of Anne Waiguru. I can't vote for her because this shows how traitorous she is, what she has done with NYS bill, and now she wants to be a governor. And how can you vote for someone who she wants to be a governor and then she has misappropriated people's fund, national government? That is not good, yeah?
No, hiyo ni mali ya wananchi. Hiyo ni kupora mali ya wananchi. Hakuna haja ya kufutia mtu yoyote ako na skado.
Mimi siwezi kuchagua mtu mwenye ana skado, manake yeye ndiye mwenye kuleta ufisadi. I cannot vote for a person who has got skado because, he is the one who caused the corruption. He is the one who, the troublemaker of the corruption.
Nimesoma katiba ya Kenya. Now under chapter 5, obviously, when you read chapter 5, there is issues to do with integrity. And when I'm going to vote, definitely come August, I'll definitely look at the integrity of the leader. I'm not just going to vote someone because of showbiz or side shows.
As a social activist, I think it is very important. And I want to advise just other Kenyans that it is important that you look at the integrity of the leader you're voting in. Because every public servant should be somebody who is straightforward, somebody who is accountable, somebody with a high integrity. So it should be a major factor.
In terms of integrity, that's unquestionably. As in, you can't vote a leader who has integrity issues. First of all, values of leadership. There are values of leadership. You'll get integrity is among the first ones.
For a person to lead me as a citizen in Mombasa County or in this country, he has to be a person who has integrity as a character.
Let me add some sugar just in case.
So that. Thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back to the Roundtable, and we apologize for that interruption of our signal. We've just been having a very interesting conversation here about the integrity of the leaders that we're electing. And you've heard the Kenyans there, most of them saying, you know what, I'm going to be very careful when I go to the ballot on August 8th. What does that ring in your mind? Is it realistic, or is it because they're in front of our cameras?
That has an effect.
I want to say something based on our monitoring of the primaries, party primaries. Of course, we are quite aware that there were some leaders who never got the numbers, but they eventually got the certificate. So if Kenyans are serious about integrity, that could be a good starting point. If a leader got a certificate through dubious means, whatever they did, some of them ballot stuffing, political violence and all that, then they should reject such leaders. That would be a starting point.
But how would the Kenyans know? How would I know that?
They voted in the primaries and they know who got the numbers.
You know what Susan doesn't want to accept, is that you cannot be a candidate who goes stuffs ballots and then you carry and declare yourself a winner. You must have supporters who also believe in you very hard and who also believe in that way of doing things. So once you get that ticket, they also will vote you in. And remember, in some of these places, once you get the primary, you are as good as out there. So Kenyans, the leaders will do everything possible. What I find difficult now is you know that you ran a very bad primary. And then you stand vilifying those who lost unfairly. And then when they stand independent, you tell them they're on their own. That now is the crisis. So there's a leadership crisis, a moral crisis at the leadership level, where you can actually go, cheat people out of their money, cheat them out of a process, and then still condemn their leaders who lost unfairly.
The bona fide ones.
Yeah, the bona fide ones.
And actually you've raised something interesting. When you say people stuffed ballots, allegedly, or bribed voters, we don't ever talk about the voters who are being bribed. Is it maybe just a reflection of who, we are mirroring who we are voting for?
Absolutely.
For me, I want to say that on the ground situation, the reality on the ground is that I could say to some extent that common mwananchi, the voter who is bribed, has actually been held hostage by the system. They are yearning for change, but they've been caged in. And this is their only way out, you see, such that they have to vote for this politician who has bribed them, and they think that is their only chance to get something, because in any event, they are going to lose it. Which is really unfortunate.
In another platform with my friend Mheshimiwa Isaac Mwaura, I remember him really complaining that I think when he went on the ground, he discovered that the expectations of the wananchi, you want to be a modern politician, a politician who follows the aspirations of the values and leadership and integrity, chapter 6, but he went to the ground and discovered that there is actually also extraction from the wananchi themselves, where he did not want and feel like he has to give 50 shillings, 100 bob. And the wananchi were saying, hey, this is how politics
It's called
works.
demobilization.
Exactly.
If you walk a straight line,
and
you become unpopular.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
the structure of the
and the
political
system
environment is what has pushed Kenyans into this sketch.
That's not entirely true.
Yes.
I think it is a concept that we have taken too far. Because I know 3 candidates who got elected during the primaries, good and good, because also there's another problem we have as Kenyans, applying wrong language. And when you apply wrong language to a situation, then you cannot describe it accurately. There was no primaries. That was just general election within a general election. This is what a primary means. A primary, it means a party members who believe in the ideals and the values of the party, a recognized party register, so that when there is a party primary, only members from that party participate. In our situation, everybody was voting. Whether you were here, there was no identifiable.
You just need an ID card.
All you needed was an ID, and then you go there. Now, having said that, let me go back to the idea that really all the voters want them bribe. It's not true. There's the fellow who won the governor in Nyeri. And the governor,
Dr. Gakuro.
He didn't use any money. And he made it very clear that he wasn't going to use any money. He was elected. And then there was another boy who was riding his bicycle. He was elected as an MC. And there was a coup somewhere in Nandi.
I agree with you.
Okay, so
Professor,
the thing is that the politicians, the crooks, the ones who really ought to be rejected, those are the ones who use money.
You know, Professor, this one you're missing it, because the truth is, the people you're describing are few and far in between.
Yes.
Those are so
the exceptions. Those are the outliers. These are the outliers.
Ask our good friend Karaitu Murungi.
Yes.
As soon as he went into government, he realized that actually you needed money to do politics.
Yes.
And that's what he explained as Anglo-Listen. So really the point is that every time you look at this business, you need money and lots of it to hang around.
And we are not trying to justify this. We're just, I think,
The reality.
maybe we are the reality and deciphering what the problem is.
But that reality really has to change. This
has
is
to
what's
change.
driving these people to make a corruption.
I would really want to find out where we can go now, because the election is coming. Is it sort of like a lost case? And it's interesting when we hear comments like what you're making, Prof. You're from one of the institutions that's supposed to uphold Chapter 6. I mean, for you to come here and say such comments, it actually it worries me just as an ordinary Kenyan.
Well, the reason why I'm saying that, me understand, there's something called collective consciousness. Okay? And we have not invested sufficiently in raising the collective consciousness and building values within ourselves. You know, I will just take this and give you a very simple example. For us to appreciate the law as a people, we must live it. Now, this is what I mean. Where I come from, we have a two legal system. There is the current law, and we are Christians. Somebody commits a crime, goes to court, takes the Bible, so as to tell the truth, proceeds to lie, and wins the case. When he comes there, he is called to Njurincheke. When you go to Njurincheke, they will just pick a stake, an ordinary stake which everybody walks on. You go to a pot which is like 2,000 or 5,000 years old. You are told now, if you are speaking the truth, put the stake here. And as you do it, of course, you or whoever related to you, if you are lying, they will go in the pot together with you say no. Now you are more connected to the stake and the pot than you are connected to the Bible. And you are a Christian. Now, there's the same thing with the law. The law is not in our hearts. And that's what we would like. We would like everybody to internalize the law. So this is the weakness, and I'm pointing the general weakness within the public, within the Kenyan populace. That general weakness, it can be addressed by education, by massive civic education. But we have not, as a country, invested heavily.
Do you believe that Kenyans don't understand the Constitution?
I believe that's one
enough?
aspect, because when you look at the 7 years of implementing the Constitution, there's not been any concerted drive or effort to ensure that a good chunk of Kenyans appreciate the Constitution and its language. They know excerpts of it or ideas about it. And what Professor is saying is true, because, and during the break we were talking about perhaps how the language is framed, how the Constitution sounds like a spaceship and in abstraction. So when you talk about Article 10 and we pronounce them in this very legalistic language, there's a disconnect with Kenyans. But when you bring it down to them to understand that some of these terms are actually things that you've been practicing, the jury check, going back to our communities, like we were talking about what is so strange with saying a national value or a principle of governance, human dignity. You know, we have those terms within our consciousness, utu, equity, social justice, you know, inclusiveness, umoja, all this we have in our different. So we have not had the concerted effort, as Prof was saying, of trying to bring this within our national consciousness, building it to be the building blocks of what now eventually becomes the Kenyan man and woman and child.
I'm glad it's Bob who is saying that, because that is precisely what we missed with our Constitution. Rather than build that consciousness and rather than make it our responsibility, we decided to externalize it. So we say the National Cohesion Commission should sort out cohesion. We say that the ethics and corruption should sort out corruption. We're even now saying that let the ethics and let the IEBC sort out integrity. So we externalize the problem and therefore we don't solve it. Like I keep saying, we used to have the Poverty Eradication Commission. I never saw any single Kenyan whose poverty was ever eradicated. I never saw. If you have one, please let's have one.
Maybe the commission.
I also the example that Prof gave, which I find very disturbing. You see, integrity is a wholesomeness. It's whole, eh? So I cannot be a person of integrity in one aspect and not the other.
It's complete. It's wholeness. It has to be wholeness.
Wholesomeness, It's an issue. So I cannot say that I'm morally upright when it comes to matters of religion, but not to matters of finances. So actually there is a deficiency there with that character that you are describing, who can sort of comply with the traditional values, but not the court system. Because they are not at variance.
Trying to say the
law, principles are the same.
But there's something I'm saying deeper than that. I'm saying that, you see, the way our society ran, it didn't run on written law. Okay? It ran on higher levels of collective consciousness, that people automatically knew how to govern themselves. They knew the things to do and not to do. For example, when I look at today myself, growing up in the Manyata, when you lose your cow 15 years later, you find it, they will go and point out, since it came, produce this one, produce this one, produce this one, because they were living in natural law. But today, if you do it, the following day is in the slaughterhouse.
Principles of natural justice never change. And even as you talk about that, the customary law versus, let's say, modernity versus a tradition. I mean, the population of Kenyans currently, over 70% are youth. They were really never brought up in that system that you're talking about. So we should be able to tell the truth. No matter the environment, it cannot be about situational ethics.
But I mean, we do have young people in the rural areas who still practice those.
Well, they are not governed by chiefs and that sort of laws of Nabongo Mumia, you know?
I would want to know this. So where do we move from here now? You know?
I think that it's good for us to be having this debate. It's good for us to be discussing and finding our weak points, and also recognizing that there are aspirations and that there is distance between those aspirations and reality. And we should not blame ourselves. We should not beat ourselves at this stage. It will take us a while before we get it right. For the time being, let's accept that Kenyans make decisions on politics, and that we must give them the candidates of their choice. And that when they bring us Asha, we should say, okay, that's the best you could find. We say, fine. She's the people's choice. We work with Asha. What I would encourage my colleagues from civil society and others who are struggling to give us these integrity values and trying to implant them quickly is that help us to learn and conscientize us to work on this over time. Let's not go with a punitive mind that now let's go and block so and so. Because that so and so still also has rights that need to be exhausted, and beyond which, before which, if they have not been exhausted, you cannot exclude them.
Suzanne, do you want to give a response as your party shot as well?
Yes, and it's actually I'm also delighted with this conversation, and I think society grows at its own pace. You can never fast track a society and say be here or be where. So for me, I think there's a lot of positiveness in even Kenyans talking about it, talking about issues of integrity, even documenting them in the Constitution and saying that this is where we aspire to be and work towards it, whether we make 2 steps ahead and then 3 behind and then back again. I think we are moving. Yeah, I think we are moving, and slowly by slowly and incrementally, I think there have been some incrementally positive steps that we are making. And I think by and large we'll reach there someday. Rome was not built in a day. Yeah.
When will we reach there? When you drafted this chapter?
I think we'll never reach there, because quality, there is never perfection. We seek to get better and better. And perhaps just to say the philosophy of the Constitution and saying that we must have this chapter and having laws and creating the institutions. And I agree there's been a bit of institutional failure somewhat, and that's why it has also failed Mwananchi, because now when you go to Mwananchi and tell Mwananchi do not vote for Prof, and then Mwananchi says, where is the proof? You put Prof in court, you took him to parliament, and everything is, you're all around the map. So, and then you come back to us and tell us not to vote for him. So the institutions are also failing the Mwananchi. We have to agree with that. But I want to go back and say it's important, and the philosophy of having that framework, the legal framework, the institutional framework, is based on, what JFK said, that things do not just happen. You have to make them happen. And it's in this process that we are trying to make this happen, integrity.
And I like that you're actually passing the baton to each other, because now we've spoken about institutions. Just I want a quick wrap up from you.
Yes.
What's your way forward from NCIC especially?
I think I'm very positive about this country. And I think the fact that we are having this discussion, it shows tremendous amount of progress. The institutions that we have set up, all we need to do now is to respect these institutions, to build them, not now tearing and undermining them, but to build these institutions. And from there, I think we'll reach here. I think we're inherently very good people.
All right.
Who are basically a little bit lost, but we're in the right track.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining this conversation. Really good wrapping shots, parting shots. And I think I'll have to invite you again to have this conversation, because it feels like we haven't even exhausted half of the
scratched it.
Yeah, we only scratched the surface. And for you at home, thank you so much for joining the Roundtable. Please keep giving us your feedback at KTN News on Twitter at Asha Mwilu, as well as our Facebook page, KTN News. Until next Tuesday, have a good evening.
The Roundtable was live from the Swiss International and Anna Mount Hotel, Nairobi.